at you or look at the camera? My name is Jason. I'm a Christian, a husband, a father, and a former Army officer. For nearly a decade, I worked in the online dating industry with both secular and faith-based brands. I'm also the founder of Higher Bond, a Christian dating app designed for Christian singles. For the past year, I've been traveling the country talking to pastors, ministry leaders, and singles about online dating, particularly about the impact the industry is having on the Christian faith community. Throughout hundreds of conversations, one thing stood out: a knowledge gap. For church leaders, many of them had been married for 5, 10, 20 years, and rightfully so had little understanding of how online dating apps worked. And for Christian singles, there weren't many answers. Most singles were getting their information from the secularly run Christian dating apps dominating the landscape. And that information was not good. So that's what I've set out to change. I want to take you on a journey into the world of online dating, show you what it really looks like behind the scenes, open your eyes to the hidden dangers lurking on the other side of that swipe, and most importantly, share practical strategies to protect yourself, protect your kids, and protect your church. When it comes to protecting yourself or protecting your congregation, you have to start with the hidden dangers and blind spots that come with dating online. I want to introduce you to a Christian dating app we're going to use for our examples today. Meet Upward. Now, the reason I selected Upward to be our example is that Upward is currently the most popular and the largest Christian dating app on the market. The app has literally millions and millions of members in the US. It's been regarded as the #1 Christian dating app for the past 2 years since it launched. Great, right? Well, stay tuned. Let me tell you a little more about Upward. Upward is owned by Match Group, an $11 billion company that controls the majority of the dating industry, both secular and Christian. Match Group owns dating apps like Hinge, Match.com, and their flagship brand, Tinder, a casual hookup-style dating app. Now, here's something that may or may not surprise you. Match Group actually took the same technology and matchmaking process they use on Tinder, added the word Christian to the branding, and called it Upward. The two apps function nearly identically. How does Upward do when it comes to inappropriate content? Not great. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to show you on-screen examples, but it takes just a few seconds of swiping on the app to see an aggressive number of scantily clad photos that showcase excessive cleavage, sexually suggestive photos, shirt-off pictures, bikini pictures, and more. And all of this is completely fine with the company. There are absolutely no real restrictions against this in their community guidelines because they're a secular company that wants you to be able to express yourself. Additionally, and we will show you this one, the app gives you the ability to add stickers to your profile to show off what makes you uniquely you. Some of the options you have on a Christian dating app are Woke AF and Netflix and Chill, which, if you're not familiar with those terms, the F in Woke AF refers to the F word, and Netflix and Chill, according to dictionary.com, means to watch Netflix with a romantic prospect with the eventual expectation of sexual activity. Just a reminder, this is not some random secular dating app we're talking about. Upward is the largest and most popular Christian dating app on the market with millions of Christian members in the US. And unfortunately, as you go down the list of other Christian dating apps, it's much of the same. Generally, it's because of one of two reasons. Number one, they're a secular company and they just don't care about Christian morals. Or number two, their hearts are in the right place, but they haven't put in the proper safeguards or the adequate resources to keep things safe, appropriate, and Christ-centered. One of the biggest dangers with anything you do online is falling victim to a scam or fraudulent scheme. Every email you open, every link you click, every website you visit, and now every dating app you use is an opportunity for bad actors to try and separate you from your money. While these things can happen in the real world as well, the risk is much greater online as scam artists can hide behind the protective wall of technology to fuel their deceitful schemes. And unfortunately, Online dating is a prime target for these types of schemes because of the emotional nature of relationships. When people feel connected to someone or moved by a story they believe to be true, they tend to start thinking with their hearts and not with their minds, which can open them up to danger. And here's where it gets worse. Some of the greatest attributes about Christians are their compassion, their giving nature, and their love for others, including strangers and those they just met. As you might imagine, this makes faith-based singles especially high-value targets for scam artists.
Initially, he would read my wall, I would read his wall, we would post things. He would like things, I would like things. Then it got to, we would just share emails. We started sharing pictures. I knew that just based on the conversations that we'd had, that he was someone that I would like to meet. I felt a real soul connection with him right away. We sang to each other, we prayed with each other. We'd talk about what happened at church on Sunday. There wasn't an immediate talk about getting together. He was trying to finish up a job in California, and he needed some money to help finish that job up. And so I sent him. I thought about it long and hard. I prayed about it, and I've always been a very giving person. And I figured if I had money in the account, that I could send him some money, and he promised to have it back within 24, 48 hours. And I thought, could do that. No one would ever know, and I'd be okay. But, you know, one thing kept happening after another. He'd need more money because he was coming in over budget. Things didn't get done on time. You know, he needed a lawyer. He had to take a money loan, and it needed to be paid back. And that is where this is all so pitiful, is because if he's a scammer, I've been so brainwashed and I've lost everything. It's all I had. It's any inheritance that I could have passed on to my daughter. The loss of money was my future, and knowing that I wouldn't have to work, that I could just make it to the ripe old age of whatever and be perfectly comfortable. The loss that I've suffered emotionally, I think, has even been more traumatic. I don't want this to happen to anybody else. If they're real and if the love is real, they're going to want to see you as soon as possible. I mean, it's been 2.5 years, and I still haven't seen his face.
This is a clip from an actual interview between the FBI and a real victim of an online romance scam. It's hard to listen to, but it's important. So, just how big of a problem are these romance scams? According to FBI data from 2021, over 24,000 victims in the US reported collectively losing approximately $1 billion to romance scams. And this data is only what was reported. According to the Social Science Research Network, it is likely that less than 5% of people report these crimes. This makes the actual losses probably closer to 20 billion, and the number of people scammed closer to 500,000, all in 1 year alone. And when it comes to romance scams, they come in all shapes and sizes. The common trait between all of them, though, is someone asking you to either send or receive money for them. Often, there is a heartfelt story attached to the scam that only comes after an emotional connection has been built. According to the Federal Trade Commission, these are the most common lies used based on over 8 million reported cases. I or someone close to me is sick, hurt, or in jail. I can teach you how to invest. I'm in the military far away. I need help with an important delivery. We've never met, but let's talk about marriage. I've come into some money or gold. I'm on an oil rig or ship. You can trust me with your private pictures. Who is at risk? Here's what Special Agent Christine Binning with the FBI had to say.
Romance schemes usually involve a perpetrator assuming an online identity and it's for the purpose of tricking victims. So what they do is they search out vulnerable women, generally speaking. Men can be targets as well, but it's generally women, usually above the age of 50. Anyone is subject to this. If you're online, if you're using the internet, as long as you have money and you're willing to give it, then you could be a target.
Let me repeat what she said. Everyone is vulnerable to these types of romance scams. Thankfully, education is the most powerful weapon to fight back against these bad actors. In a few moments, we're going to share some practical, real-world steps that Christian singles and church leaders can use to protect themselves and their congregation. But first, we need to look at one more risk here. Financial risk is not the only risk that comes when people lie about who they are online. The term catfishing refers to someone who is pretending to be someone they are not online. Generally, catfishing refers to people taking on these fake personas with a motive other than financial. Here's how it works. Generally, someone creates a fake profile on a dating app by using pictures they've downloaded from someone else's social media accounts or simply from a Google search. They will fill out the profile as if they're actually that person, and then they'll get to messaging other people. Again, there are ways to quickly sniff this out, but it requires education and being able to see through some common excuses. Why do people do this? Well, for some people, it allows them to live out a fantasy of being someone they're not. For others, it gives them a chance to talk to men or women who they feel normally wouldn't talk to them. And even for some, they say it's something they do purely out of boredom. The risk here is emotional. When you finally find out that the person you're talking to is not who they say they are, it hurts. You feel lied to, emotionally manipulated, and it can make you never want to date again, online or in person. It's important to point out three quick things here. Number one, this can all happen in real-world dating as well. It's not exclusive to online dating. Number two, the level of risk is very app dependent. Some apps do a great job of verifying and educating members. Most don't, but some do. On Higher Bond, we manually verify 100% of member profiles and photos. We also run free safety seminars, educational events, and provide real-world resources because we know how important this is. Unfortunately, most other Christian dating apps don't because either it's not important to them, it costs too much, or it takes too much work. And number three, romance scams and catfishing are probably the most easily preventable risk of online dating yet, but potentially the most detrimental. This is why in a few minutes, we're going to dig deep into real-world practical strategies to keep yourself safe. Just because a dating app has Christian in the title or has faith-based roots does not automatically mean that it's actually Christ-centered or that they care about doing kingdom work. We've already talked about Upward, the largest Christian dating app in the country, being an app that aggressively and intentionally falls short here. But many of the other popular Christian dating apps are also secularly owned and operated. One that always surprises a lot of people is Christian Mingle. While most people think that it's owned by a group of Christian leaders, it's actually owned by a large publicly traded company out of Germany called Spark Networks that runs several large casual dating apps like Zoosk and Attractive World. Another popular dating app that is often mistaken for being a Christian dating app is eHarmony, mainly because the app was started by an evangelical Christian back in the early 2000s. But in 2016, founder Dr. Neil Clark Warren stepped away from the company and the focus on inclusivity took the main stage. In 2021, eHarmony began running its first same-sex couple commercials. And when asked in a recent interview whether eHarmony was a Christian dating app or not, VP of Communications Kristen Berry said, "We don't have a type. eHarmony members represent adults of all ages, demographics, religious beliefs, and backgrounds." Berry went on further in the interview to discuss eHarmony's newly minted commitment to inclusivity by saying, "Over the last few years, we've taken steps to become more of the company we want to be and to provide a platform that's representative of who we are today. A brand in a workplace that strives to be safe, inclusive, and welcoming to every member of our community." For example, we recently announced a partnership with GLAD to address how eHarmony can better serve LGBTQ+ daters, which included participating in company-wide trainings and collaborating to improve our matchmaking process to help all our members find real love and authentically express themselves on our platform. While we can't speak to these companies' intentions, it does feel odd to have such an intimate part of the faith community being run by companies that may not be aligned in their mission. In the early days of dating apps, it was all about profile-based matchmaking. However, ever since Tinder rolled out its swipe-based matchmaking, the majority of Christian dating apps have also shifted to this type of matchmaking. And unfortunately, this doesn't just include the larger apps looking to make a big profit, but it also includes Christian apps who have their heart in the right place, but don't have a deep enough understanding of what's going on. Why do these apps, including the ones with good intentions, shift then? Because it's popular. As a bit of a foreshadowing spoiler, if you've been around ministry long enough, you know that when you make decisions just because they're popular, you tend to be making not so great decisions. So, what is so bad about swipe-based dating? Here's what you need to know. In theory, swipe dating might sound amazing. You can see hundreds of matches in just a few minutes. You don't have to message anyone until you know they're also interested in you, and random people you aren't interested in can't just send you messages. On the surface, this sounds incredible. However, what lies below the surface of a seemingly harmless format of dating is something to be concerned about. Here's where it gets interesting. There are 3 stages a user's brain goes through when using a swipe-based dating app. Stage 1, the binge intoxication phase. In simple terms, this is the stage where you first start using the app. You're excited because you're seeing a lot of potential matches. You start swiping, hoping for your first match, and then it happens. Ding! Congratulations, you've got a match. You get excited. What's going on in your brain when you get this match? Well, there's a release of hormones and neurotransmitters that elicit feelings of euphoria and social acceptance. Dopamine and serotonin, often referred to as the feel-good chemicals in the brain, fire off. These feel-good chemicals flood the reward pathways in your brain, and because the reward was a surprise and unexpected, the effect is much stronger. The surprise reward of a swipe match notification sends a dopamine rush that is so addictive that users will wait all day to receive that same notification. It also means that swiping on a dating app activates the same reward pathways as addictive drugs. This fact alone tells neuroscientists that the behavior has the potential to be dangerously addicting. Here's a quote from Dr. David Greenfield, assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine and the founder of the Center for Internet and Technology Addiction. You never know when someone will respond or who will respond, so you're compelled to actually open that email or that app to see what you've got. The anticipation of a potential prize also releases a flood of dopamine in our brains. In a 2019 research paper, researchers linked the effects of social media addiction to Tinder's super likes, one of their core features, and a feature now used on Upward, showing the potential risks of these types of behaviors. Once you get hooked on the unique ability of social media to quantify how much others love you via likes, retweets, super likes, and comments, you become obsessed with distinguishing and comparing your own position in the virtual hierarchy. This process of posting, receiving likes and comments, engaging in others' posts, and comparing your social media presence to others is so ubiquitous that you probably performed similar actions when you woke up this morning. While participation in social media might seem harmless, the process can be traced to incredibly negative neurocognitive effects consistent with addiction to a drug like nicotine or cocaine. And that's just the first stage. Then what happens? Stage 2, withdrawal. When our brains experience a consistent influx of these feel-good chemicals, they start to expect the pattern to continue. In response, they start to slow down processes to maintain a more balanced equilibrium. This works well as long as that continued influx of feel-good chemicals continues. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. In the case of our brains, this is where withdrawal starts. When you use swipe dating apps and you see a big surge of dopamine, or the feel-good chemicals, your body starts to limit the number of receptors that move that dopamine into action. It shuts the proverbial doors, which is fine when you're still getting that big influx of dopamine. But what happens when you stop swiping? Your body still thinks there are big surges coming in, but they're not. Additionally, the initial excitement of the app has worn off, and even when you do swipe, the levels of dopamine coming in are much lower. Research shows us this sudden drop of dopamine results in depression, anxiety, and feelings of hopelessness. How serious are these symptoms when it comes to online dating? Here are a few statistics to consider. 79% of adults say they have experienced emotional fatigue or burnout from dating apps. 1 in 3 say they have sought professional counseling or therapy as a result of using online dating apps. And nearly 90% of the dating apps mentioned as being used in the survey were swipe-style dating apps. Again, this is only stage 2 of the swipe dating process. Stage 3, doom scrolling. What does this withdrawal lead to? It leads to something known as doom scrolling. People begin obsessively and addictively swiping through matches to try and fill the void. Doom scrolling is by no means a new concept. We see it in social media, we saw it with breaking news during the pandemic, and now we see it with swipe dating apps. Social neurologists have found that doom scrolling can lead to depression and feelings of hopelessness, hence where it got its name. Additionally, the constant swiping and hoping for a match leads to a rise in cortisol, which is sometimes known as the stress hormone, responsible for regulating many important functions in your body. A rise in cortisol has been shown to delay the ability to recover from physiological stress. While you're swiping, your heart rate actually increases, your blood pressure goes up, and your body shifts into fight or flight mode, all while you're supposed to be having fun online or finding a partner. Remember, many of the most popular Christian dating apps like Upward, Arc, Christian Mingle, and many others use this kind of a matchmaking process. To be very clear, this is not meant to be an attack on online dating or to discourage anyone from using it. In fact, I love the way the church leverages technology to further its reach with things like social media, digital giving, outreach, and dating. But it's still important that we understand the potential blind spots so we can approach these things correctly. After all of that, it's worth taking a minute to take a deep breath. Thankfully, it's time to shift to a more proactive and positive discussion. It's time to cover the practical ways Christian singles and church leaders can protect themselves or their congregations when dating online. Here are the most important things you can do right now. The first part of this is specifically for ministry leaders, and the second part is specifically for Christian singles. For ministry leaders, after prayer, the next best thing we can do to help Christian singles succeed and stay safe with online dating is to proactively educate. Most of the blind spots and potential issues we outlined today can be basically eliminated with the right preparation, resources, and information. There are 3 main areas I'd recommend educating in. Number 1, spiritual education. You're going to get questions like, is online dating good for me? Does God approve of online dating? What does the Bible say about this? Many of the singles watching today probably have these same questions. While I have my own thoughts and convictions here, this is one I'm going to leave up to you as biblical and spiritual guidance are your areas of expertise. What I would recommend, though, is making sure you have a clear and actionable answer ready for when these questions come up. For me, I believe in the right context, online dating can be an amazing tool to help grow God's kingdom. I believe faith and action can exist together, and I believe the church already leverages technology in a lot of wonderful ways to do meaningful and impactful kingdom work. I believe extending this to online dating and meeting singles where they are is a fruitful step. The second area of education, and one that is extremely important for singles and ministry leaders, is real-world safety. These are the super specific, ultra practical ways that singles can keep themselves safe and their path straight when dating online. Here are the most important things to know. Number 1, never give out your banking or payment information to anyone. The only time you should ever be using any of your banking or payment information when online dating is if you're purchasing a premium membership directly from a site. You should never give any banking information, credit card information, or payment information to anyone you're talking with. Additionally, if someone asks you to purchase something for them, wants to send you a check, wants you to buy gift cards, offers to let you invest in something, or anything else like this, it's a major red flag. Number 2, don't send money to anyone for any reason. There is absolutely no reason during the dating process to send money to anyone that you're speaking with, especially prior to meeting them in person. Even then, there really is no place for it. Unfortunately, some people who are looking to take advantage of others will share stories of personal, financial, or family struggles in hopes that the person will offer to send them money or help out of the goodness of their heart. Or they may be more direct and ask directly for financial help. Additionally, this goes for people asking for money to visit you or anything like that. While it may sound tempting to pay to help someone come see you, this is almost certainly not the intended use of the money you send them. Number 3, be careful with what personal information you share with someone. Online dating is all about getting to know other potential matches, which does involve sharing information about yourself. But be careful if you feel like a match is asking you odd questions that are a little too personal. For example, if they start asking for your email address or your mother's maiden name or anything like that, do not give them the information, stop talking with them immediately, and contact customer support and report them. Number 4, be careful if someone asks you to continue the conversation on a different platform. Once you leave an online dating app, many of the protections they have in place are no longer helpful. Ideally, we recommend keeping the conversation on the platform for as long as possible. The one exception comes with our next tip. Number 5, video chat with someone before meeting up in person. Video chatting is a great way to verify that the person you're talking to is the same person in the pictures on their profile. While video chatting won't necessarily verify that they're telling the truth, it can weed out the majority of scammers who use other people's pictures. Number 6, don't fall for silly excuses. When you do something smart like asking someone to video chat to verify they are who they say they are, but they're actually a bad actor, they're not going to just immediately admit that they're up to no good. They'll try and come up with excuses. Don't fall for these. For example, we mentioned that several of the most popular scammer lies are about being in the military or working on an oil rig. The reason for this is that when you ask them to video chat, they'll say they have bad internet service or their computer or phone is broken. While there's a very tiny chance this could be true, it's best to assume these types of excuses are not valid. Number 7, don't share your address or the exact location where you work. This is information that a new match just doesn't need. If something doesn't go according to plan and they know where you work or where you live, that can complicate the situation. It's okay to tell them the kind of work you do, but we'd recommend not sharing the company. For example, if you're a barista at a coffee shop, just tell them you're a barista. Number 8, be careful what you have in your photos. It's far too common that we see people giving away private and identifiable information unknowingly through their photos. Here's some things to look out for. Pictures with street signs that show where you live, pictures that clearly show exactly where you work badges that have your personal information on them, and any other personal information in the background of a photo. Number 9, don't click any links or download any files from a match. If there's a website they want you to visit, for example, one that shows a church group they support or are a part of, search for the website yourself. This way they can't input any malicious programs or unwanted things onto your device. Number 10, use a Christian dating app that works to keep you safe. Again, we're partial here to HireBond as it's the dating app we created to solve a lot of these problems. But if you don't decide to use HireBond, at least use a dating app that doesn't just say they take your safety and spiritual health seriously. Find one that actually walks the walk. And number 11, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If you're ever confused, unsure, or just have questions about something that feels wrong, don't send any more messages until you contact the dating app support and you get a good answer. Here's a few examples of things that could be red flags. If someone tells you that they're a university professor, what is most likely a highly educated profession, but they can't seem to put together a complete and coherent sentence. If someone tells you their name is one thing, but their profile has a different name listed. If you ask them some basic questions to help verify they're real and they give you odd answers or refuse to answer without a good reason. Now, if they don't want to give you their last name so you can search for them, that may be just them trying to be safe as well. If the person claims a certain profession but knows nothing about that profession and can't answer questions about it. If someone seems way too interested in you way too quickly. Or if someone significantly younger is showing a lot of interest. Sometimes this can be real, but it's often a common red flag that something is wrong. To close, here's what I want to share. Online dating can be an amazing tool to find someone special. That is, as long as you approach it prayerfully, in the right mindset, and with safety at the top of mind. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our team at hirebond.com, and we'll gladly be ready to assist. And if you know anyone else who might be dating online, do them a favor and share this video with them. Something as simple as texting them a link, posting this video, or sharing it with your group or church could save someone from an avoidable situation. Thanks again for your time.